Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Tony Zirnoon, and I run the security strategy for VSS Monitoring. We're here with the webcast today to talk about how best can we architect defense in depth in light of the changes in the network infrastructure, the big data volume and flows are coming at, and the threat landscape that keeps changing. As we're going to go and start this webcast, there's some initial things I wanted to do, some housekeeping they asked me to start with, so I'm going to go with that. So there's going to be about 15-minute Q&A at the end of the webcast. We'd love to hear your feedback. And the webcast going forward will be available for on-demand viewing. Also, this is the first of the two-part webinar. We will continue this conversation where we'll be joined with Jim Frey from EMA and also one of our key partners, Kurt Schroeder, IP Fabric's Chief Software Architect. We're also going to be at RSA in San Francisco, so please stop by and see our demos and hear about some of the use cases where we actually have helped many organizations achieve expand in the defense in depth and accelerating security intelligence. And at the same time, we're also presenting in MWC in Barcelona. And we also can provide you, free passes. So having said that, I'm going to get started. And wanted to do that by reviewing where we are today and what we've heard from many of our customers and, talking to analysts about the threat landscape. One thing for sure is that the threat landscape has been changing and evolving very rapidly. We are seeing the threats go from, the past script kiddie trying to get in, a single threat or a single DDoS attack to actually multi-layer, multi-stage threats. We were seeing that the signature-based technologies are, not cutting it anymore, and we're definitely dealing with advanced targeted attacks. We're also seeing that this attacks are also multi-stage, and it's not enough to just do a single payload analysis on just like a sandbox, if you will. You need a multi-layer, multi-stage type defense as well. Our customers are telling us that they're more concerned not so much about the known threats that they've had, the signature or known behaviors, but actually need help to see everything and be able to analyze, remove what they already know to help build net new intelligence and help understand that which they don't know. How do we protect that which we don't know? We've seen the target attacks and the day zero things that have been happening go from just that, from day zero to actually minutes of those who want to get in, get what they want, and they come out. There's also other challenges affecting both security and network operations, and that is the proliferation of mobility or BYOD, virtualization, encapsulation, complexity on the network, and encryption. Many social websites have already turned on HTTPS using forward secrecy or stronger encryption, and in hopes of trying to save the privacy, they're actually blinding a lot of their tools. So these exacerbate the blind spots on the network for the security guys to actually be able to see what they need to see, let alone that which they don't know. So if we go back and look at the high-profile attacks, we saw a watershed moment with Aurora in 2009, followed by Stuxnet, which was the first one. You guys already heard this, but it's interesting to see the trend. We went from a targeted attack to steal IP to see cyber crime, cyber warfare, cyber espionage kind of motivations behind some of these. And we're seeing interesting things as well, that one of these attacks, by one institution or organization landing on some other country, they can use some of those same payloads, turn them back around, and use it against, other critical infrastructures. It's definitely creating a shift in what is driving this, the need behind cybersecurity, if you will. To double click on this, if you go to Hackmageddon, and these are some of the latest numbers, you can see that just in 2013, the top 20 breaches, if you look at it at the left side of the slide, all these up here, which Target and Ubisoft and many of them are part of it, you can see about 9 of those are at least above the 20 million users. We also heard initially that Target was about 40 million users, and then later they came back and said it's about 70 million. Another interesting point was that, again, the motivation behind this is not just the hacktivists, which is a huge one, but also cybercrime, cyber espionage, and cyber warfare. And another point is that many of these attacks still use very common channels, but a big portion is unknown, right? If you look at this portion, the green one, it depicts that these are unknown threats. We still see DDoS, we still see the fragmented, and really it's that multi-stage, multi-layer attacks that is really hampering our defenses. How can we see everything? How can we, remove what we already know so we can gain net new intelligence? When talking to a lot of different customers, when I ask them, what is it that keeps you awake, or what is it that is on top of your mind, it's obviously this advanced malware, right? Advanced targeted attacks, the APTs, things that are bypassing traditional layers of defenses. The DDoS is live and is being used very successfully as a way to create some mayhem, and as part of that, infiltrate the organization. The next generation IDS, IPSs, firewalls, they're just not able to sustain against these increasing layers of attacks. And of course, the BYOD problem, it provides an array of new venues, attack surfaces, whether intentional or unintentional. You basically don't have a very good handle on managing those. And of course, the business continues to want speed, and they look into the cloud offerings, and as part of that, every cloud application hopefully provides some level of SSL, so that's by design a blind spot, in very hard to manage from a governance, risk, and compliance perspective. And these 4 are just new set of problems that IT organizations have to deal with. Mind you that they still have the previous set of problems, which was indeed that governance, risk, and compliance, and how do they expand that beyond the perimeters? What do we do to enforce GRC in the cloud services today? Who's responsible for the confidentiality and integrity of that data? The mega trends that we talked about, mobility is just one. We have social, cloud, virtualization, obviously the big data. The sheer amount of data, volumes, velocity, and variety of data coming at us is a lot, and very hard to assess, to manage, to handle, and if you're dealing with incident response, it just exacerbates that problem. The other problem that exists is, that we're going to talk a little bit more, is the operational aspect. The network and security operations both are facing exploding challenges that we'll see in a second. But often they have competing priorities, and they strive to offer service assurance on their sides. Network ops wants to provide 5 nines, and security needs to be able to do just that, provide security in a way that is enabling to the business and not, hampering that. What I wanted to do quickly, just, take a quick vote, and before we jump into the next level. So I'm going to click on the votes, and let's start this. So the first question I want you guys to get your input on is, let's see if this thing works great. All right. How well aligned are your network operations and security operations? Is it tightly coupled? Are you guys somewhat aligned between the two organizations? Do you often compete with priorities, objectives? And how, or is it that you have a good handle of it through change control? So if you could please respond to those questions, that would be great. Another 5 seconds. Okay. I'm going to try the second question, and that is, how often do these two organizations compete for network access, whether it's span or adding tools inline? Let's try that again. Okay. If that works, okay, there we go. On the first question, most of you said about 49% that you're somewhat aligned. About 30% often compete for priorities, and about 15% tightly coupled. Okay. The reason I asked that question, let me finish this one. Okay. And on this one, about 44%, about half of you are saying that you compete for access all the time. Okay, look at the next slide. So if you look at, the typical enterprise, as I talked to many of the folks, on the network ops on the left-hand side, these are the challenges that they're seeing, and they continue to play this, tag war, if you will. Increasing network speeds, right? 1G, 10G, 40G, 100G, mixed media. So really, the access to the traffic is a problem. How quickly the security guys or other application groups want to deploy, it's really how fast can the network op guy, meet their needs. And they also have their own priorities to keep up with the network speeds. The networks are not flat anymore. There's complexities and congestions. They're dealing with encapsulation, encryption, tags, whether it's MPLS. If you're in the mobile carrier, you're dealing with GTP, GRE tunneling. They're all creating challenges and to the network guys as well. The network access problems we talked about, you continue to have limited access to spam ports or mirror ports. As you use aggregators, you basically compromising layer 2 visibility through aggregation. When you get a lot of packets from multiple networks to send it to like a 1G or 10G tool, you have poor accuracy, and you need to know if a particular packet, where did it come from? Which port did it come from? What was the time exactly that was captured? And of course, the borderless networks. You're dealing with public, hybrid, and private clouds, or all of them, and you have mobility to deal with. On the security ops side, they have their own challenges. They have tools that are either oversubscribed or underutilized, so either they're not getting the return on investment or they're just not keeping up. So they're forced to rip and replace the 1G tools and trying to justify the ROI or wasted ROI they've gotten from their 10G tools. This is going to continue to happen as we migrate to 4G tools. Tools obviously are not optimized to keep up with this traffic. There's inefficiencies processing, the encapsulation, the encrypted, the fragmentation, the duplication of the packets. And these tools are spending a lot of cycles on functions that are not core to them. The security guys are moving to a space, which is great, to provide service assurance. They have to be able to do what it takes to be able to not only monitor, but actually mitigate these threats coming in. And we're trying to move from a reactive space to more of a proactive space. How do we do that? We all seen a big trend in the SIM market that is shifting into a full packet capture. There is synergies between players like, Solaras and NetWitnesses and others, and SIM vendors, traditional SIM vendors. You must see all data in enterprise. Sampling and flows will not cut it anymore. We have to be able to do attribution. We have to be able to identify the source of attack so we can actually do something with it, whether you believe in, active response or just, doing attribution and going after them after the fact. So you have to be able to add the next layer of defense. You have to be able to rapidly validate that and and place that in line to do the blocking. And you need to be able to do it so you can, get out the hamster wheel and actually get into a proactive state. Be able to deal with this attack services we talked about, how do we handle BYOD, and obviously deal with hidden attacks. Well, the current solution that is available to us is just not cutting it anymore, right? Implementing multiple security tools all over the place, it increases not only the CapEx, but the OpEx. The security teams and network guys or the operation teams on both sides are constantly dealing with upgrades, rip and replacements, and a lot of change management when it comes to tool failures, and you have to take a lot of downtime and hits on their SLAs. They're busy doing sequential POCs, which sounds, great because it seems to be free, but it's tying a lot of resources. And we need to do that very rapidly to be able to decide what is the best-in-class solution. But instead, what's really happening is that organizations all over, they're compromising, cost, or compromising coverage for cost, I should say. You simply can't afford to deploy tools everywhere to see everything. And therefore, they're ending up with best effort security versus best-in-class security. And you have all this plethora of tools that you need to do, whether they're inline active security tools by a firewall and IPS, or some of the anti or APT prevention tools or advanced malware tools that exist out there, or when you're dealing with the forensics aspect of it. So you end up with something like this, right? This is an overly simplified view of it, but you have some mix of 1G, 10G, and soon 40G, and you have a lot of tools, some of them used by the other side of business for performance analytics, right? Whether it's measuring the performance of an application or the network, or dealing with acceleration, closest to the app servers or file servers, if you will. And then you have the security tools closer to the edge, or what is left in the depth of your network. Some in line, some out of band. So you have a one-to-one deployment for every segment and many tools that is no longer scalable as the traffic points to monitor increase and the speeds increase. The cost and maintenance of these things is simply prohibitive, and they're just simply unable to keep up with the rapidly evolving landscape and the speed of networks that are coming in. So at the end of the day, you have a very high CapEx and OpEx when it goes to your tool expenditure.